the Overman Warrior Podcast.
Hi, Rich Hoffman here. Have to talk about the story that this guy called the Rooster, who works at the Ohio State House a lot, he does reporting. I'd say disproportionately against Republicans. He's a big time Amy Acton supporter. He has covered some Democrats at times for corruption, but when I've interacted with him, he always shows up looking sloppy. He doesn't dress nice. He walks around the rotunda trying to get people all the time. He's always trying to kind of be the you're on candid camera guy, and he's purposely disruptive because he thinks he's fighting corruption, and I happen to understand wanting to have a free press that scrutinizes the people who are in powerful positions. That I get that and respect that, but you can't make stuff up about people because you like Amy Acton. So he's a big time Amy Acton supporter. Really wants to advance her campaign. Everybody knows she's struggling, and we all know what kind of hit pieces people did. Members of the media did when it comes to Trump, and they actually made up cases, made up events, and if they had something that would stick, it would have stuck. So of course, Vivek Ramaswamy is out in front. The polling isn't doing what the campaign would like it to do. The Mark Elias hit pieces, the cease and desist letters for talking about her campaign, the problems she has with it, and her drunken binges, and really poor status, poor choices she's made, her activity as the COVID tyrant, the lockdown lady in Ohio. People are remembering who she is, and she's not getting a lot of traction. So the Rooster thinks of himself as being somebody who can shake up stuff, do reporting that none of the mainstream reporters would do, which in that case, I'd say, I'd have some things in common with him, except my interactions with him is I feel kind of sorry for him, and I have since I first ran into him in the Capitol. He has a known drinking problem. He's talked about himself. He doesn't have any kids. He doesn't have any wife, any prospects of a wife. He's lost a lot of girlfriends, again, according to him and people that have been around him. It's not a very well-covered secret. It's pretty out in the open. And obviously, and this is where you feel for people, and I've felt sorry for him. You do things in your life that you're ashamed of, and you have a hard time holding together, so you find something to rally behind. So fighting what he thinks is corruption is, a way of transferring some of that energy that wants to drink too much into some productive activity. And from his perspective, it's all great. But the problem is when you're dealing with a lot of emotional problems, which he obviously is. And again, if you can't even maintain a relationship with somebody until you've really been married for a sustained period of time, I think he's almost 40 years old. So he kind of has a kind of a GameStop geekish thing about him, and that's why he's always dressed down. He's always kind of appears awkward, socially awkward, and he sees boogeymen everywhere. Which is kind of it makes what he'd like to do undermines the effort. So he's kind of looked at as a scandalous character who sees all the things he's guilty of in other people, and he likes to migrate to sexual stories, or he sees that he thinks everybody's doing these cocaine binges in the state house. And there may be some of that going on. There may be some sexual scandals going on. But he sees it everywhere and in everything. And the thing about it is, I don't think it's nearly as prevalent as he thinks it is, because he's dealing with problems of his own that he transfers to other people. And that's a psychological issue. And I don't comment much about him. I kind of leave him to his own devices, because I feel sorry for him. And like a lot of Democrats, and I think he tries to portray himself as neutral or as a anti-power person. He's against everybody. He really doesn't. He really goes after Republicans, and he really doesn't offer solutions. He's only out to divide and imprint on everybody else the problems he has himself. And the redemption story, clearly, psychologically, is that he does these things so that he can shake off his personal issues onto other people that he projects that are doing bad, evil things, who clearly aren't. And how do I know that? How can I say that? Well, I know a lot of the people that he writes about, and I know a lot of the people he's tried to stick and catch in the stairways and put on camera. I know a lot of them, and I know what they do. I know why they're there. I know how they conduct themselves. And so I can speak pretty confidently that I know what a lot of these people are doing when they're far from home. And that leads to a story that he did where he announced that Vivek Ramaswamy has a mistress and that he's been cheating on his wife, and he's been going to some of these events and yelling, making himself very obnoxious in the audience, and he's essentially trying to start rumors. And here's a little bit of advice for the Rooster, and I think he's cock-a-doodle-dooed probably a little bit too much when it comes to the Sullivan case in the New York Times, which I talk about a lot, and defamation and cease and desist letters. When you're going after people who are in public office and people who are very public people, that's one thing. When you go for people who are aides, people who are otherwise in association with those people, but they're not those people themselves, there's a whole different standard, and you can't just make stuff up. So I happen to know the person that he's saying that Vivek Ramaswamy is having an affair with, or had an affair with. I happen to know her very well. I've known her since she was very, very young, and I know her as a young lady now. I've known her since she was 12. And I know what kind of person she is. I know her parents really well. I know how they raised her. And, you never know what people do when you're not around, except that you kind of do know what people do, especially when you know them well. And I can just tell you that this person at the center of this is way too politically savvy, way too smart to get caught up in something like what she's been accused of by the Rooster. And that's Alicia Lang, Senator Lang's daughter. And I know her mother very well, Debbie. These are people, very political people, very smart people, and they're people who have, behind the scenes, fought a lot of corruption. And you really don't come out of the family at the level that Alicia has, being not so bright and trying to sleep your way to the top, like you might find on Monica Lewinsky. And I think that this is where the Rooster has got himself in trouble because of his social awkwardness, his inability to maintain relationships, the tendency that he has, the fight that he has to resist being a binge drinker, and trying hard to find redeeming qualities in himself that he can project outward. He assumes that everybody's like he is, and that they're not going to be able to handle themselves in the positions of power. So one of the criticisms that people have about Vivek Ramaswamy, and again, I'm saying things that I know privately by talking to all the people involved. And I have talked to Vivek Ramaswamy plenty enough to know a lot about his personal character, who he is. And I have met his wife several times. I've met his parents quite a few times. And they're very, very nice. They're all nice people. And Vivek Ramaswamy is a nice family person. And he's not he's not subject to those kinds of temptations. He's too smart. And if someone could prove that otherwise, I'd like to see the evidence. And what the Rooster says is that there's 10 Republicans that are saying to him that this is what was going on between Alicia and Vivek Ramaswamy. And I say, I don't think they're Republicans at all. I think they're people who want to attack the dad because he's the majority whip in the Senate, and they've got a beef to pick, and they want to undermine his authority. And they're probably not even Republicans. They're likely Democrats. The Rooster doesn't name the sources, and I don't think they actually exist. And if they do, they have some gripe, and they're trying to use the Rooster's tendency to take some little grain of something and make a mountain out of it for their own political purposes. Everybody knows that Alicia Lang, since she has essentially graduated from college, she's a young lady. She's worked for many campaigns. She worked for Sharon Kennedy on the Supreme Court. So she's definitely a person who has learned the political ins and outs from a very high level. She worked for Secretary of State Frank LaRose and other places, and she's been had access to people who are very powerful. I don't like the word when it comes to politics. Very influential at a high level of politics, and I know her personally. Talked to her enough. And she's pretty much the same person that I've always known from the time that she was 12 years old. She's been a fan of mine. She's read diligently. I mean, I'm not going to say I look at her as a daughter of mine. That would be disingenuous, I think, to my own kids. But I look at her as somebody that I care about, as I care about the Lang family, because I know them to be very good people from the inside. And I know enough about the reason why Vivek Ramaswamy flies all over the nation to do events, because, and the criticism from people like the Rooster and Amy Atkins of the world and all those radical Democrats is that he's harming the climate with his private jets because he's a rich billionaire, hangs out with Elon Musk and those kinds of people, and he's an unethical billionaire who did all kinds of bad, nasty things, and we assume that because we haven't done anything all that great, and that's why we're Democrats. So we're after anybody who's a Republican and been successful. And we assume they have the same problems we do, but they don't. Vivek Ramaswamy, if truth be told, and I can say this from a very intimate knowledge of the situation, he flies home. He flies all over the nation to these events the same way Trump does. And he usually comes back home, doesn't stay overnight, flies back home so he can be with his wife at the house. And that's what he's done during this whole political escapade. That's the main reason for the private jets. And they've always avoided, yes, he's traveled with lots of people. Alicia's definitely spent a lot of time with him, probably over a year, working with him during his stride, and political campaigns, presidential efforts. She's been associated with a lot of people who are very influential at the very, 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 very top. But that doesn't make her corrupt. Now, when you're awkward and you can't even maintain basic elements of relationship building, and you can't even stop drinking, and your outlet is to do this free speech thing where you want to pin your sins on other politicians as a fight for justice so that you can transfer your own guilt onto them, that doesn't mean everybody's bad and everybody's corrupt and everybody's up to the same no good. And Vivek Ramaswamy is a person who, again, when you're flying around with people who are who are the daughters of very important senators, people you personally know and respect, you are smart enough not to fall for every little thing, and you probably aren't going to have an affair. Got a nice wife at home, everybody's watching, you have a lot more things on your mind than thinking about, oh, here's a young woman, I think I want to have a intimate relationship with her. And then to say that Alicia would do that. But the person I know who is Alicia Lang, the person I know takes a lot of, she has a lot of her dad in her. She has a lot of her mother in her. And I know Debbie Lang extremely well. And she's a very charismatic personality, a very happy personality, a person that can really run a positive outlook on things through extremely harsh conditions. And the Langs have fought through some really tough times. And they've stayed loyal to each other. They're very, they love each other. And that's one of the things I like most about them. And Alicia certainly has taken after her mother. And she is not one that falls for every little goofy seduction that might come her way by some anybody who wants to try and take a crack at manipulating her in some way. She's way too smart. And knowing what she's watched her parents go through, knows that the cameras are always on. There's always somebody talking. There's always a leaker. And she knows how to avoid those kinds of scenarios. So even if she did have a lapse in judgment, I am certain, knowing Vivek Ramaswamy, that is not going to be the case. He's not going to make the mistake. She's certainly not going to make the mistake. Under any condition would she make that mistake. This statement about her being a partier, I think that's the Rooster infusing on her his weaknesses, as he does in a lot of cases. And we wouldn't talk about it if he didn't make himself the story, and you didn't go and essentially make up a story about an innocent person. And I think he really got himself in trouble with this one, and I don't think the Sullivan case can protect him from a cease and desist letter. Because you can't go after somebody like Alicia Lang, who doesn't deserve it, who has conducted herself very ethically in just every facet of her life. And there's lots of people who know her good conduct and highly respect her, and then try to turn her into some Stormy Daniels story, because you're trying to tear down Vivek Ramaswamy, the Rooster is, because you see that Amy Acton, her chances are dwindling down. And this story came out, and it's just the way they went after Trump. Same exact kind of thing. They're down in the polls. They have no traction. All the legal lawfare stuff isn't working, and so they're trying to start a rumor. And people who are after George Lang, Senator Lang, trying to make something out of his daughter by starting a rumor by somebody prone to take it and run with it. Probably very malicious and openly deceitful on their part, because they're probably jealous. There's a lot of people who are jealous when good families do good things and they have access to power and maintain themselves over a long period of time because they didn't. So they're always looking to find fault in other people, and if they can't find it, they'll try and throw something at the wall and make it stick and see if there's any smoke to the fire. And most of those people, especially if you have an attractive young lady, and Alicia certainly has been, always was, and you have a charismatic person like Vivek Ramaswamy, and they're alone they're never alone. There's always someone flying with Vivek Ramaswamy. So it's not like there's just two of them going on a date to see a movie. That never happens, just so you know. It's always rapid fire, and if Vivek Ramaswamy has any private time, he has it with his wife and his kids, playing tennis in the backyard or something. He does not have, there's no time when you're as busy as he is to do that kind of thing. Now, when you have only the Rooster Substack and you're running around the state house trying to play gotcha to politicians that you assume are just doing the same things that you have a tendency to do, you're probably going to lose touch with reality a little bit and assume that everybody's up to no good. But in Alicia Lang's case, that certainly isn't the case. And she would, the person I know, I can say it very confidently, for many years of knowing her, isn't stupid enough to do something like that. And that's the reality of the situation. And now I think the assumption is going to get the Rooster in trouble. And he's only been doing this thing since 2020. I think he's been off alcohol since 2023. So he's had a number of years where he was, had a very reckless lifestyle. And, I don't know how he's handling it, but he still has a hard time with relationships. And, all he's got in life is this Substack. And that's why I've never really talked about him. He went after Jennifer Gross, I think, very wrongly, and other people I know, Rodney Creech recently. A lot of people that I think it's been unfairly applied. But when I saw this story, I was talking about recently, I had a comment somebody made to me, and this Rooster story had just hit. And I was talking about Amy Acton being a drunk because of the police report, them coming to her house. It was very embarrassing, her and her husband, and the story is just bad judgment on her part, and she was on medication and she didn't even know she's supposed to be a doctor. These are embarrassing stories for the Amy Acton campaign. And the Rooster looks like you just can't make stuff up. You can't take some rumor and then go apply it to somebody who is a much more private person than the very public people he's been covering, and he crossed the line. And that wasn't smart. It's not smart at all. Hoping and gambling that there might be a little bit of smoke to the fire, just because people said that she traveled with Vivek on his private jet all over the place. I think they put on their observations their own weaknesses and did not observe reality as it is. And I can say what it is because I know the people. And I certainly know Alicia. And I know her parents and the things they've been through. And she's seen it all. And she's not dumb enough to do something like that. So I think the Rooster's going to find himself a chicken dinner in the process of scrutiny over false reporting and trying to reach for a there that was never there by putting his own weaknesses onto other people who didn't deserve it. And he can only blame himself. But as far as Vivek Ramaswamy having an affair with Alicia Lang, I would say the chances of that are less than zero. And they have better things going on in their life than something silly like that. And Democrats tend to assume that everybody has the same problems they do. And his obsession with Amy Acton in this governor race looks like it's put really bad judgment into his usually not very good judgment reporting, but people typically ignore him and let him go as a free speech issue. I think now he's crossed the line, and he's going to have to pay for it. And that's on him. Anyway, Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you haven't read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. And, when it comes to, I'm happy to, know all the people that I do. And it helps to understand when these kinds of stories come out because you have firsthand experience about them. And I can say, especially in this case, that it is emphatically not true. Vivek Ramaswamy is a really good family person, and he has a lot better things in life to do than fall for, cheap thrills and one-night stands. He's way too intelligent for that. And there's a lot more people who are a lot smarter about those things than people who have chronic problems, who typically are Democrats, who don't have such restrictions on their behavior. They just can't understand that other people don't have those problems. And there's a lot of people, especially in the Republican Party, who don't. Anyway, have a good day. See you later.
Thank you for listening. Coming soon, The Politics of Heaven in 2027. A treasure hunt through heaven and all human history.